LeBron James's I Promise School has been all over the web. I've seen so much coverage over it, and it has been generally seen as this positive thing, and LeBron James has seen so much praise for it. For those that don't know, this is sort of an unorthodox school with many benefits for the kids that attend, as well as their parents. The first class will consist of 240 third and fourth graders, and though the school year is longer than normal, these kids will have a lot of support, free breakfast and lunch, and their parents get help with job placement and access to a food bank in which they can prepare the food at home. The idea is to really help at-risk kids. Now, on the surface, this sounds like an awesome idea because the face of the school is not some politician. It's a basketball player, and it's being touted as LeBron James' school as if he had everything to do with it. You even have leftists patting him on the back and then freaking out, saying that it's sad because the citizen is doing more than the government for schools. But it's not just the effort of a private citizen, and that's the problem with the school itself. The school is actually a joint effort between both the LeBron James Family Foundation and the Akron Public School System. In fact, the school itself is part of Akron's public school district. And though LeBron James and his colleagues did pay for a decent amount of the startup costs, and it will spend at least $2 million a year, most of its costs will be on the taxpayer, as they project it will cost about $8 million a year from the district's regular budget. So the taxpayer will still be paying for this school like 75% of it. I'm not even a fan of LeBron James, really. I thoroughly enjoyed when my Dallas Mavericks kicked his ass in the 2011 NBA Finals. But I can separate the individual from the sport. I would have most definitely praised LeBron James had his efforts been absolutely on his own with no taxpayer funding. A private school in which he and his investors voluntarily funded it for these at-risk kids. This is the way schooling systems should be. Though he had a great idea, he instead created another involuntarily funded public school. The cool thing about the I Promise School is that it is unorthodox. Right now, we have the standard K through 12 setup, and for the most part, the public schools are basically the same in terms of hours. Some just happen to be better than others. So as it stands, the public school system is an outdated, inefficient, and expensive mess when it comes to educating youngsters. If education was entirely marketized, we see more efficiency and the cost would be lowered. We see more education systems that are far more creative and cater to certain types of students, that of which their parents could pick and choose from instead of being forced to essentially attend the school that's in their district, no matter how rotten that school is. We see some of this in action with some of the private schools and homeschooling, but the massive public school system really muddies up the incentives to come up with these creative ways to educate. Now, some people would say, what about those that can't afford it? Well, that's when you voluntarily help, or you call on the rich humanitarians like LeBron James to help. And because people aren't being robbed via taxation, they'd have much more money to do so. The current way of educating does not have to be the standard, and there are more avenues such as virtual reality that are being recently explored. With things becoming so digitized, schooling can be far more cheaper in cost. And maybe there are students that need the classic classroom K through 12 setup, but in a freer market, they and their parents would have the ability to choose between them. What we have now is this bloated system that is oversaturated with teachers that don't really need to be teaching, and layers of administration and bureaucracy. The curriculum itself is almost as a one-size-fits-all, and kids are learning things that they will never utilize, and they are never taught the things that they actually have interest in or valuable skills. And don't get me started on how these public schools can be propaganda machines used to really indoctrinate these kids. So LeBron James's initial idea was fantastic, and it can be appreciated that he wants to do something for at-risk kids, but he dropped the ball when he decided to work with the state. So you leftists who try to make a point and say that it's so sad that government can't do this, chill out. The government was involved in this from the get-go, and they're the ones that made this happen, and that is what needs to stop. Get the government the hell out of education.